beautiful day for another day
of Rethink Healthcare. Jeez, I think the Starbucks tank is a bit low for her.
I'm going to Starbucks from here. How did you know?
Where else do you go?
That is true. I mean, I think Starbucks should sponsor us by the time. You know what? Next time we'll have a little cup of Starbucks. Yeah. Anyway, another episode of Rethink Healthcare. This is Wendy Ball and
Paul Montenegro.
Woo! I mean, yay!
Okay.
How do we get here today?
I don't know. But we have too much fun doing this. So, by popular demand, they want more questions.
Questions.
Yes. So I picked another one.
You picked another one.
And guess what I picked? The one that I'm also weak at again.
Well, that's always good. As a student, it's really easy to work on the areas that you're strong at. You're like, yay, I'm getting all these questions right.
Yeah.
But you have to work and fine tune those areas, even when you become a nurse, the areas that are your weaker areas. So yes. I think that is excellent that we work on these areas. Yep. And you should be doing the same thing too.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So let's get to the question, right? So let me go.
We're going to just dive on in, right?
Yeah, of course.
Dive on into
not? Because
questions.
I know you want to go get your food.
I know.
So,
my Starbucks.
Your Starbucks.
Yeah,
yes.
My beverage.
I still want my steak.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So, question. The newly admitted client diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia is pacing rapidly, fiddling with his fingers. He states that another client is out to get him. Then he says, see me, select me, protect me. What is the nurse's best action?
Ooh, best action.
Yeah. What do you think? So before you get into the questions, what is it looking for?
Yeah, I love that point, Paul. I always tell my students before you even go to the answers, make sure you know what the question is asking, because sometimes we're not even sure what it is asking. So what are we asking here? So
usually when you say, next best action there's like priority. Mm-hmm. Which is high in priority, right? So when we talked about other questions, you kind of think through ABCs and stuff like that, right? So here, right, usually with psych type questions, right, safety is usually a priority.
Is a big one, yeah.
Yeah, so you just kind of keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm. Or even assessment kind of goes with that, right? The first step of the nursing process is assessment. Yeah. We can't do anything until we know sometimes what's going on.
If you get choices and 3 of them are interventions and 1 is an assessment.
You got to think.
Yeah, it's like, hey, what do I really need to do first, right? With priority, And
all those interventions could be great interventions, right?
Exactly.
And appropriate interventions, right? Yep. It's easy to cross off the things that are not appropriate, right? But what about things that are still appropriate and good?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my goodness, there's 3 good answers. Yes, a lot of times there's going to be 3 good answers, but what is the best answer? The best next thing to do? So,
all right, let's get to it then.
Okay, get to it.
Choices.
Okay.
Assign a one-on-one staff to pace with a client.
Okay. Assign a one-on-one staff to pace. When I saw this question earlier, I thought, man, I could get all my steps in if I
She
did
was
that.
very excited.
Yeah. Because I've been lazy today, to tell you. I have not been doing my steps today, so I'm going to be going back and forth and back. When I teach, I get some good steps in.
Do you?
Yeah, walk up
Are you
and down
a pacer?
I walk up. Well, I keep the students awake that way, right? A little entertainment, a little cartwheel here and there.
I would use a water gun.
Right? Ooh. I might do that. Good idea.
Want me to get you? I'll get your water gun.
Yeah, I'll be like, what's the answer? And then I'll squirt them. Yeah.
I think she's a bit loony.
Yeah, I don't think I can do that. I think I'd get in trouble.
Yeah.
Okay, so pace with them. Get a one-on-one to pace with them.
I mean, if you're thinking of safety, getting a one-on-one staff.
A one-on-one's not necessarily a bad idea.
But what's the caveat? Can you get one-on-one on demand? It's not always that easy. I mean, it depends on your staffing, but usually one-on-one sitters, I guess in this case, one-on-one pacers, right?
Yeah.
They're scheduled staff.
Yeah.
So it may not be available.
Okay. So maybe it's not the next best. Maybe it could be, maybe not.
Yeah, it's an option, right? But is it best action or available right away? We don't know.
Well, let's see what the other answers are.
Let's go check the other ones. Okay. Inform the mental health provider and request a prescription for restraints.
Okay. What are they pacing too much? We just got to sit them down.
Yeah, so you have to ask yourself, what are we restraining them for? I mean, is by them pacing, does that warrant a restraint?
Yeah, and I think nowadays we are calling them more protective devices, although we do, kind of know them as restraints because we're really there to protect the patient. And maybe protect us too, because we have to make sure that we're safe. So it's not as a punishment or anything like that, but it's for protection for the patient, for protection. Sometimes people get these protective devices just because they're for whatever medical reason they have going on. Maybe they're just not thinking right and they're pulling out their ET tube or their IVs so it's not always
protecting
necessarily behavioral in matters of something like schizophrenia or something like that. But sometimes we're protecting them from themselves. They're harming themselves. They're hurting themselves. Or maybe they're, suicidal, homicidal, or something like that. So,
but in this case, right?
Are they?
All we really know is the person is pacing, appearing anxious, fiddling with their fingers.
Yeah,
They're not threatening to harm anybody physically. So I think preparing and requesting for a restraint is not applicable at this time.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go look at the other option. Isolate the client from the others in the unit. Ooh.
Isolate them. Why would we isolate a patient? Could we isolate a patient?
I mean, self-harm, right? You would sometimes isolate them. I mean,
or homicidal, maybe.
Yeah. So when referring to isolate, we're not isolating because of a transferable communicable disease.
This is in the psychiatric case.
Yes.
They don't have TB or something like that.
Okay. So in this case, yes, you're isolating to protect.
Yeah.
So
and do they seem at harm to others or themselves? Not
that
much
there
information.
wasn't. I mean, the statement are see me, select me, protect me.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
They're not saying I'm going to hurt you or stab you, right?
I'm not quite even sure what they're saying there,
but they're also paranoid schizophrenic, so maybe that's why you're not quite sure what they're saying.
Yeah.
It's justifiable.
Yeah. Okay, so
I don't think that's So
probably not.
So far we have just one good option so far.
Yeah, kind of.
Let's see what the other option would be. Administer the prescribed oral PRN, lorazepam, and haloperidol.
Well, PRN means
when necessary.
When necessary. It's a Latin for something. Pay something. Yes. So look that up, you Latin people. But as needed, right? So this is something that clearly the patient has an order for.
Yes.
Right. So we can use it as needed for whatever indication it says for.
Yeah, so I think that's a possibility. So we're narrowing down to two choices, right? So let's kind of go back to the question to kind of hone in which would be most appropriate. So what is the patient exhibiting? Pacing rapidly and fiddling. What does that really tell you? When someone's what is that?
So we're assessing the patient and we're kind of coming up with some ideas of what's going on. Is it related to their diagnosis?
Possibly, right? Possibly, right? But then those symptoms of anxiety. Right? So one of the options are given to you is medication to help control the anxiety. Right? So let's kind of go put it back as well. Will the one-on-one be a good option? I mean, I think it's a good option, but then will the one-on-one necessarily manage the anxiety? No, I think one-on-ones
it could exacerbate the anxiety.
Exactly.
For sure.
Exactly.
Right?
One-on-ones are there usually for their own safety.
Yes.
So in this case, the one-on-one isn't going to protect them for anything. So so I think that answer here will be the administration of
I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
You agree?
Yeah. Again, the best thing to do with the options that you're given is how you need to answer. So I feel like that is the best option.
Yes.
Often I have students, well, what if this happens? What if this happens? Well, the question doesn't say
No.
what if this happens or what if that happens.
Don't introduce scenarios that aren't stated.
Nope, we're just
Yeah.
kind of basic, what is going on off of the information you have. So I think that's great. So a little medication as prescribed by the doctor that we can give to this patient, PRN, for those indications. So perfect, I think we did it.
All
We
right.
answered another question.
Yes, and these are one of the areas that I'm very weak at.
Okay, well, you're getting better,
Yes.
right?
Sounds good.
Okay, awesome. Maybe next time we'll pick some questions in some area I'm weak at.
Of course.
Okay.
Then you pick the question.
Yeah, I have to figure out where I'm weak. I'm
Okay.
just kidding.
But she's perfect. She doesn't have any weaknesses.
No, of course, we all have weaknesses, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see you next time on another episode of
Rethink Healthcare.
See you then.